One day embraced the world of Vogue, and before Vogue Women's Wear Daily. And before Women's Wear Daily, my first boss was Andy Warhol, the great artist and friend, and I worked in Interview magazine, which was the magazine, it still is published. But I was lucky to work with Andy Warhol and consider him a friend. I moved to New York in November of 1974. I was at Brown University getting my PhD degree in French literature, and I went to New York to attend a Coty Fashion Awards show. Don't ask how I got there, but I got there, and I didn't crash the awards, but at the end of the awards event, I suddenly was whisked to Halston's friend, an illustrator called Joe Eula, was having an after party, and I never thought I'd be in an after party in New York City on the night of the Coty Awards, where there was Halston, Elsa Peretti, Martha Graham, Andy Warhol, Deanna Vreeland, Pat Cleveland, the famous model, and all the great people I'd read about in the Vogue magazine. And a great, great fashion editor who was a great friend of mine who's now deceased, called Carrie Donovan, who had worked at Vogue and who also worked at the New York Times. So I got back to Brown and I wrote a note to Carrie Donovan, and she responded. Somewhere I have that note. And that one party made the determining moment in my life when I decided I would go to New York and pursue my dream of being in fashion, and I never knew it would happen so fast. Now that was November 1974. I then went to work as a volunteer. In those days we were called volunteers, we were not called interns, at the Metropolitan Museum of Art under the great, great Empress of Style and Fashion, the former editor of Vogue, Deanna Vreeland, who, as you know, is the Empress and the Oracle, Deathwick Oracle of fashion. She died in 1989. So I went to be a volunteer at the Metropolitan Museum of Art for a show she was mounting, a costume exhibit called Romantic and Glamorous Hollywood Design. And she had gone to Los Angeles and found in the warehouses of the great movie studios, and for example, she found Vivian Lee's Gone with the Wind costume, where, you know, they tore down the portieres, the curtains, and made her green velvet dress to go into Atlanta to borrow some money from Clark Gable, Rhett Butler. She had the greatest costumes of Marlene Dietrich. She had all of the costumes of Cecil Beaton from My Fair Lady. She had costumes that Ginger Rogers had worn. She had Greta Garbo's costumes from Camille. And these clothes she had in an exhibit, I think it was maybe her second or third exhibit at the Metropolitan, after having been fired from Vogue, where she turned fashion exhibits into museums, into a whole new cultural institution that she should be credited for, because she brought theatricality and the spectacle of how to create a narrative around basically old clothes, old costumes. So Mrs. Vreeland also was a woman that I admired so much. We were great friends because from her I learned the importance of narrative. Each dress is a narrative. Each dress has a story. Fashion has a story. Behind that dress or the designer is a story. The story is as important as the dress that you're going to put on. And everyone here knows, men and women know, how important is fashion in your life. Raise your hand.